Hi everybody, so I'm finally here with my review for the Danessa Myricks Lightwork VII palette. Probably for me the most exciting launch of the year because last year this was my favourite eyeshadow palette of the whole year. And I'm a massive fan of colour, of shimmer, and most of all Danessa Myricks. So this one was so exciting to me. I've already created 4 different looks for this, and what I'm going to do is show you those today, but then we're going to try 2 different looks, one on each eye, which are just going to be more wearable, everyday, easy looks. So the first 4 you'll see is where I'm using lots of different colours, and then the next 2 that we'll try today live here together will be me just showing you how this is much more wearable. You don't have to be afraid of these, you can dip into them and just have very easy wearable looks, and that is exactly what we'll be looking at today. So I can't wait to get started with this. This truly is the release of the year for me. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Hannah, I'm 48, I'm not a professional, but I am somebody who really loves makeup and beauty, and here on my channel I show you the latest releases, my favourite looks, and give you any beauty news you might be interested in. I've also got cool undertones which do lean a little bit neutral, so I can wear cools and warms as long as they're not too warm, and I've also got blue eyes. Anyway, that's enough about me. Let's dive straight into this Danessa Myricks Lightwork VII review. So before I go into all of these looks with you, I'm sure a few of you have noticed I'm rather sparkly today. Isn't this jewellery beautiful? Let me introduce to you Read Your Heart jewellery. This has been sent to me. I was allowed to pick out 3 pieces, something I absolutely love to do when it's jewellery that I think I would wear a lot of. I love silver and I love white gold and I love rose gold and I love sparkle and I love Celtic themes. So this really appealed to me. So let me show you my unboxing video of these. Read Your Heart specialises in Moissanite jewellery, which has become one of the most popular diamond alternatives right now, and honestly when you see the fire and clarity in person it's really not hard to understand why. And a quick bit of background, Moissanite actually comes from a naturally occurring mineral which is first found in a meteor crater over a century ago. The version used in fine jewellery today is lab created, which means it's ethically made, conflict free and far more affordable than a mined diamond without losing that brilliance or hardness. It sits right next to the diamond on the Mauve scale. It's durable enough for everyday wear, but it gives off slightly more rainbow fire under the light, which is what makes it so captivating, as you can see here on camera, but also in person. And what I like about Read Your Heart as a brand is how open they are, telling us all about the story behind the name of their brand, which comes from the idea of reading your heart, which I love, and expressing your love through thoughtful, genuine choices such as these. And they build all of their designs around that theme, which is modern, timeless, and I think really personal. So the 3 pieces that I chose, I think they all sort of feel like they belong together, but at the same time each one has its own individual personality. So first we have this Celtic Moissanite cluster engagement ring. This one is all about symbolism. So you've seen this in my other video. I don't know how good it'll be underneath this camera here. The knot design represents endless love and connection, and the Moissanite cluster lights up in every direction. Hopefully you can see that, but it's probably better in my other video, which was actually in natural daylight. I think it really comes into its own more so in natural daylight. And then I have these cluster Pave hoop earrings, which are a little bit harder to see now because my camera wants to focus on my face. You saw them in the clip where I showed the unboxing, hopefully. So these give me the everyday sparkle, which if you know me, I'm always looking for everyday sparkle, whether it's my eyeshadows, my lips, or my jewellery. These are everyday wearable, but they're also suitable for if you want to feel really dressed up. So for me, it's an everyday piece, but it might be for you something for going out. Completely tailor these pieces to meet your needs, but isn't it absolutely beautiful? It also has a really nice thing at the back. That's what's the word for it, where it just clicks in so you can't lose the earring, which I have a lot of trouble with. I tend to leave my earrings in a lot and then I can lose them, so I much prefer it when it's got that clasp at the back so that it just cannot move, so it's really secure. And I love the way that every time you turn and you catch light on it, it really does sparkle and catches the light, so people really notice it and they're drawn to look at it. It is gorgeous. And then lastly we have this beautiful piece here, and this one is the Dancing Moissanite Arrow necklace. So I can't really get much closer to you at the moment with that one. And this stone almost moves in the center with you because, well, it's not that it almost moves, it actually does move in the middle. And that means that it's constantly reflecting light, so even more so than everything else, because you don't have to move, the stone is moving as well. It's very delicate, but it's also really eye-catching. And another reason I like that is because I've got this engagement ring here, which is my engagement ring, which was actually my grandmother's. And I felt like it's quite similar, the sort of style. So it complements it, I feel. So all of their pieces are crafted in sterling silver, and as I always say, I love silver and white gold. They're my favourite types of jewellery to wear, so that is absolutely perfect for me. I was delighted when they said, did I want to pick pieces? Because if a company contacts me and it's purely gold, then I'm very reluctant to try it because I don't think golds look good on me, apart from rose gold. But I love silver. So it's also more affordable when it's silver. So we've got this lovely bright high-end finish, but we don't have the high price tag with these. So if you do fancy treating yourself or maybe a loved one, I do have a 15% off discount code, which I did include in that clip of me unboxing it, but I'll put it on the screen now. I'll also put it in my video description below, along with links for all the pieces I'm showing you today and a link directly for the website if you just want to look through it yourself. I'll also include links for the brand's website and their, I've already said website, haven't I, for their Instagram account. I've got lots of links for you below so you can find them in multiple different ways and get more information on them and look through the sort of products they've got. But I have to say, I am delighted with everything I've had from them, and I feel truly blessed to have been given the opportunity to have chosen these. I absolutely adore them. I really do. They're gorgeous. So thank you so much for gifting these to me. And yes, do I recommend Read Your Heart? I absolutely do, for affordable, fabulous, environmentally friendly jewellery that I absolutely love. Anyway, let's get straight back to the Danessa Myricks Lightwork VII review. So before I do anything, I will play you my swatch video. It's quite a long one because I want to go through each section in that swatch video, so here it is. And as you can see, absolutely stunning. So before we look at the looks, I just want to talk a tiny bit about the palette. You've probably seen loads of information about this already, but I just wanted to show you side by side how it compares to last year's if you're not familiar. So this one is the one from last year, which has that slightly see-through cover, but it's black so you can't see it quite as easily. And then this year's one is completely see-through, so you can see exactly what's inside. Both of them have the mirrors here in the top, and I'm sure you already know because I'm sure you've seen the reviews and you saw last year's, but we can stack these, we can remove them. So looking at last year's, I definitely need to get that tool. I don't know if you've seen the tool that Danessa's advertising for flipping these out, but it's not terribly difficult to get them out, but I could probably do with that tool so that it's a bit easier on my nails. But anyway, you can take one out, you can take two out, you can take three out, however many you want to take out, and then you can remove the mirror from the lid here. And then you've got your stack. And each one of these, every time you buy them, comes with a little pouch, so you can take the whole set away with you, all of them together inside the leather. I don't know if it's leather or faux leather, but anyway, it feels a bit like leather. And then it goes into the pouch here. So you can take the whole set away, or you can just take one away, whichever you prefer. And now that we've got this new one, you could mix it up. So you could take one of these, two of these, but the other thing you can do is you can take them out individually. So if you want to create your complete own palette from last year's Lightwork 6 and now from Lightwork 7, you can remove these individually. Again, that tool is quite handy for that, but it's not terribly difficult to get to them. It's a lot easier than the Louis Vuitton, for instance. So you can just remove them. It's totally magnetic. So then you can just place them in and you can create your own palette of 6 just with one mirror to take out with you. Or, like makeup artists often do, you can create something rather fabulous in this, because this is fully magnetic. You can also take the magnetic pieces out of the groundwork palettes if you've got those, which has creams and mattes, and then you can create something with that as well. You could even add products from other brands that you've got with magnetic things to create something quite magnificent in here. So if I wasn't doing my job, where I always need to know how things are when they're bought in store, I need to know the way they come, because if someone says to me, can you compare X, Y and Z, and I've got them all muddled up, it would be a nightmare. But if I wasn't doing my job, I think I would absolutely love to create my own palette here and create my own 6s and my full pans. I think it's a fabulous, fabulous idea, the most innovative idea ever. And honestly, today I've just swatched one of the Chanel 9 pans, the colourful ones. And firstly, I can tell you now, I think this formula is better. And secondly, for the same price, we get all this compared to one Chanel 9 pan. And look at all the packaging and look at what you can do. It is just so good. And if by any chance you picked up the summer single offering that we got in the pastel shades, you can add these in as well and mix these. And something worth thinking about is we got 3 mattes with that. So with last year's palette, we didn't get any mattes. They did work quite well. I wasn't unhappy with it, but I know a lot of people would have preferred to have had those mattes. So some of the shades within these 6 pans sort of served as a matte because they weren't overly sparkly. Like one I always remember is from this sort of earthy section. This one here worked quite well as a transition shade on me. But now, with the new palette, we get more mattes. Mattes that are actually really good base mattes, so I think this will please a lot of people. So in this earthy section we've got these 2 mattes here. So we also have these 3 from the pastel one in the summer. So if you did get this, sorry about the mess they're in, they're very well loved, my Danessa Myricks palettes. If you did get these, you could mix these together as well and do something. So we have a green, I think these 2 in the middle here would work well with these. And then we have these browns here, which would work well with these. And the greens, well, maybe mix with these and the blues. I'm not so sure the green would be as useful. Doesn't mean it couldn't be used, but certainly these 2 and these 2 would work quite well. Especially, I think, having this matte here with one of these purples to create a different look. I think that would be really good. So if you did pick that up, you could add it in and swap it around. You could, if you wanted to remove the earthy one, for instance, and then you could have these 3 here. You could do, oh gosh, see how strong the magnet is? It's just pick that one up there on the back there. But yeah, you could do all sorts. It's great fun. I love the fact that it's great fun, but really importantly, it's fabulous quality. And last, with Lightwork 6, we got quite a lot of new formulas, and I do believe we've got 10 different formulas in this one, if I'm correct in that number, but I'm pretty certain there's a lot of formulas that have gone into Lightwork 7. So for the looks I'm going to show you today, looks 1 and 2, 3 and 4, obviously I'm not going to be using the one from the spring, and I won't be using any ones from Lightwork 6, but I definitely will be playing around with those over the coming months. So any looks that I happen to create that I think you might want to see, I will definitely put them into shorts or show them to you in a different video, because that is something I absolutely can't wait to do, is mix them all together. But today we will forget all about those two and we will just concentrate on the new one. So if you look at Danessa Myricks' website, she says on there that this palette is her past, her present and her future captured into one single palette, celebrating 10 years of artistry. I should really bring it up a bit closer for you, shouldn't I? The collection blends grounded beauty with surrealist colour and texture, 10 versatile finishes, infinitely wearable shades and the magic of transformation all in one magnetic stackable collectible palette. Made to mix, made to move, made for everyone. The first Lightwork palette with mattes to ground, define and shape your looks. And all of the different formulas we get in this, we have Hyper Shine Chrome Metallics, we have Hyper Shine Metallics, Velvet Metallics, Velvet Chromes, Foil Flake Chromes, Foil Flake Metallics, Elastin Multi-Chromes, Chrome Toppers, well there's only one of those, the light blue I think is the chrome topper there, Elastin Sheer Metallics, and we have the Soft Touch Mattes. So you may have already seen me playing my shorts video parts 1 and 2. If you didn't, in that I did actually use this spray to use for the metallics. That would probably be the Foil Flake Metallics I was using that for. This is Avene water spray. This is just a thermal spring water spray that I just keep on my desk when I want to wet my brush. So what I was doing with that was I was getting the product on the brush, spraying the brush and then applying it, so that way I wouldn't have any issues, because I know with formulas such as this one here, you can see straight away how flaky they are and slightly in pieces. So this blue one as well is a bit like that. So if I just take those for you and just show you quickly, there's one in each section that's a bit clumpy like that. You can see that they smooth out almost as soon as I touch them, to be fair, but it is well worth working them out onto your hand or the brush before using them, especially if you just want to use a little bit of these. I mean, look at them, look at the power of these colours. They swatch absolutely magnificently, they absolutely do. They are out of this world formulas, they really, really are. I mean, even the mattes, they are so creamy and they are beautiful. And these foils, you can swatch it and they'll go down virtually your entire arm. Look at me trying to get this off my hand as well, the colour. Again, showing though how you have to be careful with how you handle those sorts of colours if you don't want to have a superbly vibrant look, if you want to use it as a liner, which is exactly what I did in my looks 3 and 4 video. So what I'll actually do now is play you the looks 1 and 2 and followed by 3 and 4. So let's start with looks 1 and 2, and for looks 1 and 2 I did a look using all of the shades from here and all of the shades from here. So here's looks 1 and 2 for you. And then I will play you next my looks 3 and 4. So for 3 and 4, I went with the blue and I used this one as a liner. And a separate note on this as a liner, by the way, Danessa Myricks actually did a shorts video on this on her Instagram page, which I highly recommend checking out if you haven't already. And she mentioned that this shade pretty much inspired everything, almost her whole career, because she said how she had no confidence as a teenager in school because of acne issues, and her mum took her out shopping and said, let's get you something bold like a bright blue eyeliner. And that's what she did. And she said, if you put something bold like a bright blue eyeliner onto your eyes, all anyone will see is that blue eyeliner. They won't see anything else. And that's what sort of inspired her to start working with colours and makeup. So she talked about that wonderful story and this wonderful blue. So I think some people think this is too much for the whole of the eye, but I very much think that that was Danessa's intention, is it's very good for that pop or that liner, which is how I've used it in my look. So I'll show you my parts 3 and 4. My 4th look, I pretty much dipped into all of them. So just, I don't mean every colour, I mean each of the 6 pans. So just mixing it all up and not really sticking to any sort of colour story. So here's parts 3 and 4 for you. And now for parts 5 and 6. I had to think about that a minute. I am still full of this COVID. I've taken some tablets and I'm okay-ish, but it's about 6 p.m. It's taken me till now to actually get the energy up to do this. So no coffee today, just a sip. Look at my new Stanley cup, by the way. I just got the new autumn shade. Isn't it gorgeous? I am a bit of a Stanley fanatic. Keeping the fluids going through. So now I'm going to try 2 very simple looks. You can see I'm wearing quite a simple everyday autumnal sort of sweater at the moment, and I'm just going to put 2 looks on that I think I could wear with this look, with any look, everyday looks. That's the idea. Nothing planned. Let's just see what happens. So I'll zoom you in a bit. So I'll start by going into this earthy 6 pan, into this matte here, which is probably the lightest of all the mattes in here. And as I said, these mattes, they just are so easy to work with. I'm using my standard Victoria Beckham blender brush here. They're superbly easy. Look, done. There's my transition done. So easy. I mean, obviously you can build it up more, but there's very little work involved with these mattes. They are so good. One thing though, I would highly recommend tapping off quite a lot, because they are beautiful, but they're very powdery. There's a lot of kickback coming up in the pan as I put my brush in, if you can see there, which is another reason why they get so messy. So straight away thinking what would be a really easy everyday look, I would say it's this as my transition, and probably this shade here. So from the central section. So if I just put this one now across my lid and see what we're looking at. So this would be a really, really simple look. It's giving me a little pop of shimmer. Nothing, it's not giving me full coverage. This is a really, really basic everyday sort of look, just popping into work. You just want to put something together, just popping out the door. And another thing, Danessa always says you should be able to apply these with your fingers, everything really. So you could create this look. I'm sure you could do the mattes with your fingers as well. And how quick and easy is that? And you could just add a bit of liner and there we go. We've already got a very simple wearable look with this huge palette, which might look a bit overwhelming and like there's lots of colours and what you do with them, but it's not overwhelming and it can be used in this very simple way. I'll use my Victoria Beckham 21 brush and I'll go into this one from the centre. Now I will just take a bit to deepen up. Now again, this is optional, you don't have to. I'm just going to add to it a little bit. And they just blend in so fast. You're just going to get the quickest of looks. If you want an out the door in 2 seconds sort of look, this is exactly what it would give you. I'll use the same one with the other end of this brush. Again, very important to tap off. They are so powdery. And then I'll put this underneath. Not all the way, just that much. And there we go. That is the look pretty much done. And I'm sure a lot of you would see this and never think of a look like this really, but it is absolutely doable. Certainly if you saw Lightwork VI, you would have never thought that was doable, and pretty much it isn't, in all fairness. You just need maybe one matte and take one shade from Lightwork VI and you can do something like this. You don't have to always go for those super bold shades, but you could. And if you wanted to add to a look like this and do something a bit more fun, maybe if I go for something like a liner brush, I could go for kind of maybe a blue or a green. What shall I do? I mean, the blue is super bold, isn't it? So I'm not going for anything super bold today. I've shown you the blue as a liner in that third look. So let me try this green one here. If I just introduce a little bit of the green, just a hint of it across the upper lash line here and here for a bit of a sparkly wing. Just build a bit more depth with the wing there. And there we go. I've just introduced that tiny bit. It's very dark because it's like a duochrome green, so you're not really seeing much in the way of green, but I think it works really well with these colours. So I haven't touched this one. I could have gone with the black if I wanted to use that as a deeper liner, but I want this to be a very soft, everyday friendly look. So that's exactly what I think I've achieved, and I probably wouldn't add to it. We are keeping this less complicated. Now for inner corner, if you go for either of these lighter two, they do have that shift. They both have a shift. So don't be fooled when you see them in the pan. They both have those colour shifts. You can see I've had coffee. My hands are shaking everywhere. So you could put those in the inner corner. I think they are probably the lightest. What about this one? Would it be too chunky? It's silvery. Maybe this one? Maybe try this one. Let's see what happens. Because I don't want to introduce too much colour to this look. I want it to be a simple neutral look. Yeah, I think that will work actually. So just a pop of brightness with this one here. Yeah. And possibly I might get away with it underneath the brow. Let's take a look. Yeah. I think that works absolutely fine. So there we are. Who would have thought I've just put Danessa Myricks on my eyes? So before I do mascara, let's go to the other eye and try another simple everyday wearable look. So for the first one, I went with this. I think the only thing I can do is probably go with the grey. Now the grey does have a lot of pigment. So I'll take my blender brush, tap off a lot. So I haven't got a lot on the brush because again I want this to be a simple wearable look. I don't want to be overly smoky and overly pigmented. So, and again with fair skin I don't want too much of a pop. And I'll run that same grey using the 21 brush, the fluffy end, underneath the whole of the eye. See how much pigment it's got. I do need to be careful. And I might go with this greeny shade again actually. Let's see how it looks with the grey. I'll just take a little bit on the outer third because it is quite dark. See, it's got that shift. It's just starting to introduce a bit of shimmer, but like we said, we're keeping this simple and wearable. Just blend it into the crease a little bit up here. It's also giving me a bit of depth. I think I'll stick with that for my depth. Take a bit on the 21 brush and actually take the same shade into the outer V section a bit as well, mix it into the grey. Because I don't want an awful lot more depth. The grey's already given me quite a bit really, so just a little touch of that. Now introduce some brightness to the eye. Again, thinking wearable, not over the top. This one would be over the top. Mixing any more colours like blues or purples, I think would make it over the top, not wearable every day. So which one should I go for? We've got this as an option. Quite bold. Would be a nice autumnal look, but I don't know if I'm repeating my look a little bit from look 1. So let's try something else. I think probably the most simple one might be the one I use for that pop in the inner corner there. That's going to give me a nice bit of brightness, so maybe try that. It's a little bit chunky, this one, so I don't know if it's going to go all down my face. Yeah, there we go. That's a simple wearable look, isn't it? So easy. So basically, I'm hoping this is showing you that you can spend some time playing around with colours, creating all sorts of looks, but you can also do what I've just done and spend very, very little time creating simple, basic, everyday looks. And if you like a little pop of colour, introducing these purples or the blues as liners. Maybe I'll try a little bit of purple with this look. I don't know how it'll go with green and silver, but let's just play around and find out, I think. How's that for a simple look with a bit of black liner? Good to go. Haven't used any purple today, so which one? This one's too bright. I think I should go, but then I want it to pop a little bit. Oh, what do? Do I go liner with this? I think that is a bit risky, I have to be honest. And this one is a shade where I'll bring out my spray can and put a little bit of water. I'm taking it away so it's not landing on my makeup. A little bit of water on the brush because this is one of the flaky ones. And then I'll sort of mix it into a paste on the back of my hand to make sure before I go ahead. And then we'll just see if it works as a liner shade without being completely over the top. It's giving me that nice little bit of sparkle there underneath the eyes, introducing a hint of something new, but not a full eye of over the top colour and shimmer. That little tiny hint of it there. And again, like I said, you can stick with the black if you just want to go for a really simple liner shade. I'm just sort of suggesting ways that you might introduce a hint of these bright colours rather than a lot, as I said. So as I did on this side, just bringing it out for a little bit of a wing. So we've got sparkly, chunky metallics. Well, this was a smooth metallic, this one is one of the chunky ones, as liners on both looks. And the more I apply, the more you're going to see that purple, which will just catch a little bit in the light. So it's just giving that tiny little hint of the purple without being over the top. And then I think I would literally leave it there, maybe in a corner again. I could, I suppose, go for this one for the inner corner because it does have that hint of pink and it will catch with the liner shade a little. This is now going ever so slightly into over the top territory because I'm mixing too many, which I do like to do, but that's not the purpose of this demonstration. So I'll leave it there. I could, for under the brow though, go back into this one I used on this side and take that underneath the brow. So as always, I will be going into the Tom Ford Black Diamond and looking for, where's my brush? My rescue shade, just to tidy up a tiny bit. Don't need to do it much at all, to be honest, because these mattes don't really get away from you and cause you problems, but I'll just do a little bit of a tidy up and then I'll put some mascara on and be back to show you my final look. So there's my final two looks with a bit of mascara, and hopefully this has shown you just how wearable this is and how it can very much be an everyday eyeshadow option. It's got everything here. You can go full party, you could have a dressing up party, and you can pretty much create all sorts of different looks. You can go for those really bold looks over the eyes. Sorry, Florrie's joining in the background again. You can go for those really bold looks if you want to. You can have those beaming blues and purples and shifty shades across the eyes, or you can just have a hint of them like I've done today. So many possibilities. They are superbly easy to work with. The quality of the formulas is exceptional. Really genuinely exceptional. So easy to wear, and I just adore them. I don't think there's anything in my whole collection that makes me quite as happy or gives me as much joy as Danessa Myricks Lightwork collections. I've always loved them, but they just get better and better and better. I mean, I adored this one, 6, but obviously we did have the limitation of it being so bold and bright, and now you can go for looks like the ones I've got on today, and it just gives you those other options. I think my favourite look out of all 6 that I've shown you would be my very first look, that earthy green look. But I think what I'm most looking forward to trying, if I'm honest, is mixing that earthy 6 pan with this one and seeing what I come up with from Lightwork 6. I cannot wait to try that. So mixing those 6 with these 6. I don't mean all 12 by any means. I mean just mixing 2 or 3 together and playing around with them and extending my Lightwork 6 sort of looks that I was able to achieve last year. I just think if you've got these, you don't need anything else in life, do you? You are absolutely sorted. They are gorgeous, and Danessa is an absolute magician. So anyway, that is it from me for today. I do hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please do hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed, I'd be delighted if you did subscribe to my channel. And if you already are, thank you so much for being here again at the end of another review. I truly appreciate every single one of you, and I really hope to see you all again for my next video. Take care everybody. Bye.